Okay, so this is 123 design, Autodesk 123D design, and you might have already had a go with this piece of software. If not, I'm just going to run you through a few of the basic functions, and then we're going to have a look at doing some sketching on here and also a loft. So first of all, we can see that we've got a grid, and this grid represents like a surface, a tabletop or a floor, and that's where we're going to be doing our initial drawing and sketching. On the top we've got our drawing tools, which do all kinds of things, and down the right hand side we've got our view tools, so we can turn the grid on and off, and we can look at materials and outlines, etc. We'll be looking at those a bit later on. First of all though, let's go over a few things. With your mouse, you can change the view. So if you scroll in and out, I'm going out now, pulling back on the wheel on my mouse and pushing forward on the wheel on my mouse, you can zoom in and out. If you hold down the left button and click and drag, then you can select something. If you right click and move, you basically rotate the screen, the view, and if you push your mouse button down, the mouse wheel button down, then you can pan around the screen. To get back to our initial view, we're going to use the view cube up here in the corner, call it the view cube, and if we click on the little house next to the view cube, then that puts us back in our original viewing position. We can also click and drag around the view cube. We can also click onto the top of the view cube, the front of the view cube, the right hand side, the left hand side, and that's really handy when we start to draw objects. So click back on the little house tool there, and we go back to our diagonal view. There is also, underneath the cube here, there is a little arrow. If we click on that, there is perspective and orthographic. We're going to be working in orthographic, so make sure orthographic is selected. So to start drawing 3D forms, first of all we're going to look at primitives. So if you drag your mouse over the bar here and select primitives, and then drop down, and we're going to click on a box. When you drag your mouse onto the screen, you see a box appear. If you click again, it will draw or set the box onto the grid, which is obviously like the floor. We'll do that again. We'll go select another box, drag that onto the screen. This time we're going to change the length, the width and the height of that box. So at the bottom of the screen down here we can see that the length is highlighted blue. If I type in 40, we can change the length. To get to width, we use the indent button, which is above the caps lock on your keyboard. Press that button and it will skip over to width. Change that to 50, and then we're going to skip over tab. We're going to go to 70, and we can see we get a much larger block. Click, and that will set the box on the grid. If we right click and view around, we can see that we've got these two cuboids now on the screen, and we can see when we rotate around, we see how far away they are from each other. Go back to the home view, we're in the same position again, back to our home view position. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to edit these cubes. Now obviously you could do this with other primitives as well, and you can have you can play with those later. I will explain later, but we're just going to start with some cuboids. On the keyboard I want you to press C. C stands for chamfer, and what that allows us to do is to select an edge of a block. To select that edge, click, and then when you click on the edge you get this arrow, and then we're going to grab that and pull down, and you can see what it does. It takes a slice off the edge of the block. This is called a chamfer. You can also type in the distance that you want the chamfer to be, and when you're happy with that you press enter on the keyboard. Press E. E will allow you to select an edge, and it will allow you to fill it. And what a fillet is a rounded edge. So we're going to round that edge off there. So it's in the same way the chamfer. You press E, you select the edge, and then you drag the arrow, or you can type in a measurement. Let's try that on another edge. If I press enter, you can also E for edge again. You can also select the side edges here and do the same to that. And we can see that we're starting to shape our 3D form. If you push too far with the arrow, then a message will come up to say operation failed. That means that you've reached the limit of that function. So you can't basically, it won't fillet that edge anymore. You can only get to that point and not fill it any further. Press enter, there we go. So that's chamfer, and that's C for chamfer and E for fillet. Now we're going to tweak. Tweak is K on the keyboard, and what tweak will allow us to do, it will allow us to select a face, an edge, or even a point, a corner, and pull that and manipulate that face or corner or edge. In this case I'm going to select the top face. So to select the face, I'm just going to go in just inside the shape, just inside there, you can see, and when it glows, click. And I should be able to, no, it won't let me do that, it should be able to pull, oh, there we go, I can tweak that edge backwards now, look. See if I can rotate it as well. Yes, I can rotate it. Again, with the tweak, you can only do it so far and then it won't let you go any further. I'm going to do that again, press K, and this time I'm going to select that point there if I can. I'm going to zoom in, so I'm scrolling forward on my wheel. I'm just going to select that edge this time, see what happens. So I can just pick up that edge and I can push it down. I can also grab it in the center and then pull it. I can also rotate it, although sometimes rotate won't actually do anything. I can go that way, look. So that allows you to create, I'm going to go back to home, that allows you to create these more kind of complex and weird and wonderful shapes. Okay, so that's 3 ways of manipulating your block. You should end up with something that looks like this. The next thing I'm going to do is we're going to have a go at sketching a shape and then extruding that shape. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a screenshot. So print screen, copy it into PowerPoint, print it off with your name on it as evidence that you've done that. When you've printed that image off, then we're going to delete that. So we're going to select it all and we're going to press delete on the keyboard. And then we're going to start again. So we're going to start with, go back to your home view. This time we're going to sketch a rectangle. To do that, we're going to click on select the rectangle tool. This time you have to tell the computer where you're going to sketch. We're going to sketch on the surface here on the grid, and I'm going to draw a rectangle. I'm going to draw a rectangle 50 by 40 and click. Now to make sure that you basically commit that sketch to the grid that you actually finished drawing it, you have to click on the green tick or press enter. I'm going to click and hold my wheel and my mouse down and just move that into the center of the screen. And then I'm going to select it. To select it, you need to move, or select anything in 123 Design, you need to move just inside the shape until it flashes green, and then click. When it's selected, it will go blue, and then you have this little cog, this little wheel. Within there, we can do a number of things. What we're going to do is extrude. So click on extrude, you just get an arrow, and then you pull the arrow out, and again you could type in a dimension, but I'm going to pull my block, my rectangle, my sketch out to 50 and then press enter. There we have, that's another way of drawing a block rather than using a primitive. I'm going to chamfer the edge, going to do that by 14, hit enter. Now you can also obviously draw other shapes, so I'm going to draw a circle as well, so click on the circle tool and I'm going to draw a circle out here. Same thing, click, I'm going to draw a circle at 40. Make sure you move out horizontally or vertically on the grid to be able to draw a diameter with a whole number. The grid is set to 5, so each time you move on the grid it's 5 millimeters. Click, hit enter, or click on the green tick, select the circle, click extrude and then pull it out. Hit enter again and then you've drawn a cylinder. You can also draw on the shapes on the blocks. To do that, we're going to go to circle tool again, and this time instead of clicking on the grid I'm going to click on the front of my block, and this time I can draw on the front of the block here. Now to do that I'm going to change my view to front, and what that will allow me to do, that's a better view for drawing this circle onto the front of this block. So I'm going to click, drag up, and I'm going to draw a circle of 20 millimeters. That's actually the diameter. Click, green tick. Now I'm going to punch that hole, or punch that circle into the block to create a hole. To be able to do that, I need to have a 3D view. So I'm going to go to home again. I'm going to select the circle. I'm going to click on extrude, and then I'm going to drag that circle inwards. I'm not going to go all the way through. I'm just going to drag that in by 9 millimeters. Again, you could type that in, so if I type in 10, it will do it by 10, or minus 10 because it's the other way. It's going into the block, and then hit enter, and I've created a hole. So this will be useful if you're trying to create windows. Okay, so that's the basics of drawing using primitives and drawing using sketches. You can obviously create sketches using an ellipse or using polygons. If you create a polygon, then you click and then click again, and if you want to set the amount of sides, so if you wanted a pentagon, you'd set the amount of sides to 5, and then you have a pentagon. Obviously you can set 6 for a hexagon, and so on and so forth. Select that and then extrude it. Hit enter. To move objects, so if the objects are not in the correct place that you want them to be, then you select an object again, drag your pointer onto the object and click. The move tool appears at the bottom down here. Click on that, and then you can use the arrows to move the blocks or the forms left, right, up and down, and you can even rotate them as well. So if you wanted to draw something and then move it, that's how to do that. When you move the objects, please be aware that when you move them, you do move them away from their original sketch. So if I was to move this block aside here, the original sketches would stay in place. To move them with the sketches, I'd have to click and drag around it, and then click on the move tool, and then when I move the block, the sketches go with it. Okay, so that's the basics really of zooming in and out, viewing by rotating, panning, using your home button to get back to the original view, drawing with primitives, drawing with sketches, extruding the sketches, and then drawing sketches onto shapes and extruding holes into shapes. We've also covered chamfers, we've covered the fillet, and we've covered the tweak also. In the next video I'm going to show you how to do some lofting.